we can start now. Every day you can draw a line in the sand and go, right, this far but no further. We can do something now. Nothing's too late.
Before we dive into this week's episode, let's talk about a brand we both genuinely love, Cytoplan. You've probably heard us mention them before, and that's because their supplements are next level.
Yes, Cytoplan has been part of my routine for a while now. They just get it when it comes to health. Their whole approach is rooted in science and totally in tune with nature.
Exactly. Their formulas are bioeffective, which basically means the nutrients are in forms your body actually recognizes and uses properly and at the appropriate levels. Cytoplan is used and trusted by health practitioners across the country. Their formulas are developed by nutritional therapists and backed by over 3 decades of clinical insight. You really can feel the quality when you take them.
Plus, it's not just about what's in the bottle, it's the mission behind it too. Cytoplan is 100% owned by a charitable foundation, which means everything they do is about helping people live well for longer. It's not about trends or quick fixes, it's about real, lasting health.
That is so wonderful to know. And whether it's our energy, perimenopause, menopause itself, sleep, immunity, or just staying on top of your health, they've got you covered. You can also get a free health questionnaire and a consultation by ringing the helpline.
So if you're ready to take ownership of your health, check out Cytoplan, powered by nature, proven by science, and rooted in purpose. We'll pop the link and an exclusive 15% discount code in the show notes.
Hello there, I'm Dr. Rosie Daniel.
Hello, I'm Karen Mellors. You've just tuned in to Alive and Loving It, and we're here to help you bring joy and energy back to your life. I am super excited that our next guest said yes to come in on the Alive and Loving It podcast. Marcus Fernandez, my dear friend. He's a homeopath, educator, author, and founder of the Centre for Homeopathic Education, CHE, which is one of the world's leading schools for professional homeopathic training. For over 30 years, he has trained thousands of practitioners globally, combining classical depth with practical modern application. He's also the author of the #1 best-selling book, Homeopathy at Home, which is a straightforward guide to using natural remedies for everyday family health. And he's also developed an AI-powered home prescribing assistant to make responsible natural health advice available 24/7. Every time I listen to Marcus speak, and especially when he shares his story about how he came to be a homeopath, which is a very profound and touching story, it opens my heart to allow the wisdom of homeopathy to land deeply. It is my medicine of choice, and I have many, many friends who are homeopaths. So snuggle in, get that cuppa. This is a good one. Hello, thank you so much for joining us again this week. Oh my goodness, my favourite topic, homeopathy this week, with my favourite homeopath, Marcus Fernandez. Actually, I better not say that, Marcus.
You better not say that.
I know at least 5. I've got at least 5 favourite homeopaths. I'll be upset if I say that. But so good to have you with us, Marcus. Really, dream come true to have you on the podcast. Thank you so much.
No, thank you for having me. Thank you.
Oh, it's great that you're here. And Rosie, we've got some great questions for him today, haven't we?
We so have. Thank you so much, Marcus, for joining us.
That's right. Thank you. Yeah, thank you. It's not going to be like a test, is it? You're not going to be testing me.
It might be. You've got real courage to come on here with us.
Oh, no.
I mean, we met way back now through Wellida, actually.
Wellida, yeah.
And I think I met you when you were invited to come and speak at the Wellbeing Advisor Conference. I think that was the first time, which might have been about 6 or 7 years ago.
No, longer than that. Longer than that.
Longer?
Yeah, longer than that. I'd say probably around God, was it 2017 or so? It was, yeah,
Maybe.
it was, yeah, yeah.
Feels like yesterday sometimes, and then time's doing weird things, but we've kept in touch, and I follow what you do, all the time, and I know many homeopaths who have trained with you, so it's great to have you here. The story I'd like you to start with, because it was the one that hooked me, was how you found homeopathy with that special remedy.
Yeah, wow. Yes, it's yeah, it's been an interesting journey, because people always ask me that question. And in fact, I put it in the foreword of my book, because I was never brought up with homeopathy. It wasn't part of my life. Very working class family, northern family, as you know well, Karen. You got sick, your mum took you to the doctors, and it was normally my mum. Took me to the doctors, and you were given whatever medicine that you were given. So there was nothing around natural around my life, or in any shape or form, really. And I was, from the age of 14, all I wanted to do was be a rock and roll star. I discovered Bruce Springsteen. That's a whole different podcast episode, but I discovered music, and I got in a band at a really early age, learned to play the guitar, taught myself, and was a singer, really, in bands, and played guitar. And probably around, well, it was around I was 20 years of age. And, being a struggling musician, we never had any money. We always blew it, at the pub or whatever we did. And you only got paid when you did the gigs. So you're always going from gig to gig to gig. And I was living a pretty hedonistic lifestyle. I was smoking, I was drinking, doing other various things. And so this was really, it wasn't in my mind at all. And we had a single came out, and we were going to do a tour of Germany. But again, I had no cash. I needed some money, because again, we didn't get paid until we got on the gigs. So I thought, I'm gonna have to get myself a job for a few weeks just to get some cash so I can go. And the only job I could get, this was really in the early 90s, there was a recession in the UK, and the only job I could get, I went for every single job you could believe, didn't get it. Even went for a job as a bingo caller, which I fancied actually, but I didn't get it. I was a bit disappointed. So the only job I could get was working in a nursing home. And this was a nursing home for the elderly with dementia. Now, again, this was far, far removed from my sort of mind of what I wanted to be doing, but it was the only job I could get. And it was really, I think it was £2.50 an hour, really low pay. But I thought I'd do it for a few weeks, get some cash, and then I'd go. And I was there about a week working in this nursing home, and I was having a cup of coffee with one of the nurses at a break time, and she was talking about, she was doing this course in the September, or she wanted to do this course in the September, and she said what it was, homeopathy. I'd never heard of it. I mean, what a weird word. And she said, I think you'd make a great homeopath. She said, I think you should come with me. There's an open day like next week. Why don't you come along with me? And it was like, what? What the hell are you talking about? And she said, no, I've got a really intuitive feeling you should come with me to this. I said, no, you don't understand. I'm a rock and roller. I'm only here for a few weeks. I'm on my own path and my own destiny. And she goes, no, I think you should come. And I sort of made my excuses and left the coffee room. Thought, well, she's a bit crazy. But every time I saw her after that in the corridor, or if I was on it, she would say, Marcus, you're going to come with me. This is the day, this is where it's going to be. We can go up together. Anyway, in the end, just to shut her up, because this went on for quite a while, I said, look, I thought maybe she's lonely. Maybe she just wants somebody to go with her. I said, look, I'll come with you, right? But I'm not signing up to anything, okay? But I'll come with you. She was so pleased, honestly. Oh, thank you. I really feel you should come. Anyway, roll the day before this open day. We drive up. It was a couple of hours away. It was up in Birmingham somewhere, I think it was. I woke up with really bad tonsillitis. Now, I used to get tonsillitis a lot because I was a singer, but reoccurring tonsillitis. And normally I'd go to the GP, get some antibiotics. It would go, but it would always come back. I mean, obviously smoking, drinking, all the things I was doing didn't help. But that was my go-to. Phone up the GP in those days, and get an appointment like that in those days, not anymore. But this day I couldn't get in. This morning I couldn't get in. So this is the day before this open day. So I thought, right, I'm going to try this homeopathy stuff. I've had her in my ear all week. So I got the bus into town, went to the local health food store, and I said, have you got any homeopathy? And they said, oh, yeah, in the back. So I went in the back. There's those little shelves of remedies. Willida remedies, and it was a little Willida pamphlet with it. And I was looking at all these names, all really weird Latin names like arsenicum, pulsatilla, sulfur, and I saw Nux vomica, and I thought, wow, that's a great name for a band. Well, that's a great name for
Hello, Glastonbury. We are.
Hello, we go. I'm sure there must be a band. I should Google it. It must be a band called Nux vomica somewhere. Nux vomica. By the way, for people listening, it's great for hangovers and too much alcohol. And I saw with this little leaflet, I thought the remedy gelsemium really popped out. And gelsemium, it had what we call keynote symptoms. Not only did it have the throat thing, but it also had like the headache, which I had, like a band around the head. I felt really quite weak and quite, like a heaviness in me, like a flu-like type symptom as well. I thought, well, that's the remedy. It looks like it's me. So I bought it, went home, and I'm sitting in my front room. I opened the bottle. I can still remember this to this day. And I looked at the bottle. I thought, if this works, I'll go to this open day. But if it doesn't work and doesn't do anything, I'm not going to go. I'm not going to waste my time. So I popped up one of the pills, put the alarm, and I fell asleep. I didn't realize I'd fallen asleep until I woke up. And I woke up, a couple of hours later. I was absolutely soaking wet. I hadn't wet myself. It was sweat. I'd been perspiring. And I thought, my God, I mean, that did shock me because, when you're really wringing wet, from like from a fever or something, I thought, wow, that was pretty powerful. And I took another one. And I was just taking them all day, like every couple of hours. Didn't really know what I was doing, but the good thing about homeopathy, there's no side effects. But I was kept sweating. Every time I was taking it, I was sweating like crazy. And I remember going to the pub that night and with my mates, and they were saying, God, you look terrible. You shouldn't be out. And I'm there sweating. And I said, yeah. I said, I might look, but I actually feel okay inside. I actually feel quite all right. It feels like a good thing what's happening to me. Woke up the next morning, no tonsillitis. And I haven't had tonsillitis since, which is, God, I'm now 35 years later, So I went to the open day. Now, remember, I'm still not thinking I'm signing up to anything. This is purely, I said I would, and this gave me confirmation, okay, I'm going to go along. So we went to this open day, and it was by the late, great Robert Davison, who started up the first school of homeopathy really in the UK in 1977. And for professional homeopaths. And he was speaking, and he was talking about cases, he was talking about remedies and his own clinical experience. And I remember listening to him, and I just remember going really quiet inside. I just went really still. And it was like I was hearing truth for the first time. And again, I can feel what it was like. It was just, I'd never experienced that. It was like something just shifted within me, and I knew it to be true, what he was saying. But it wasn't just about the words, it was what was behind the words. Something deep within me.
Like a remembering.
Yeah.
Like a remembering, Marcus. Yeah,
exactly. Well, that's exactly it. It was like I knew, like, that was the thought. I know this.
Yeah.
I know this.
Yeah.
And these subtle gears shifted within me. And my first thought after I sort of came out of this sort of feeling was, if this is true, how come the whole world doesn't know about homeopathy? Because he was telling me about all these cases and all these different things. And then my second thought was, I'm going to make sure people do know about homeopathy. And that was the beginning of a journey, I was 20 years of age,
What a beautiful way to describe you coming into alignment with the universe and your true purpose, through a feeling. I mean, I felt that as you were talking about it, Marcus, and it felt quite tender. And that's what we wish for everybody on this podcast, is they find their true path in life. I mean, thank you for sharing that. That's so powerful.
And I can remember, Marcus, as a young GP, seeing a child that was scarlet with high temperature, and, obviously panicking, young doctor, very inexperienced. And I was thinking, we've got to give this child antibiotics. And the mother just popped out this bottle of belladonna, and she gave the child a belladonna. Within an hour, fever completely gone, child totally back to normal. It was miraculous. And I went on to see it in many, many other contexts, working absolutely beautifully, which included the then Prince of Wales's animals on his farm. But I know that this principle that we're talking through the 12 health creation principles, and this one is about vitality. And I know at the heart of homeopathy is the concept of the vital force. I think you are the vital force in homeopathy, with your writing and your teaching and your practice and the incredible energy you bring to bringing it so alive in the population in general. So I'm going to ask you a big question, which is, what is this vitality? What is this life force that you're working with?
Yeah, well, yeah, big question, Rosie, isn't it? And thank you for what you said. I think for me, what is the vital force? We call it vital force in homeopathy. In Ayurveda, it's prana. In Chinese medicine, it's qi. To me, it's the same thing. But to me, it's this intelligence, this healing wisdom within the body that we all have. And I truly believe that within us all, we all have it. We're born with it. It's something, I mean, again, the Chinese talk about the Jing energy. It's something that we're born with. And I feel sometimes people fear they're broken. But I always say to people, you're not broken, you're perfect. Who you really are underneath all that is perfect. It can feel like you're broken. It can feel like, because we have all these different layers that can come on top of us over the years of ill health and different things. But actually, the essence of who we are, I think, is that. My best analogy for and I like to keep things very simple, is being a kid, is being a child, and also being a father of kids and having had young kids. To me, true vitality you see in very young children. You talked about the child there with the fever. It's like, you see children, they will spike these huge fevers. They will be vomiting all night, but then the next morning they're up having the breakfast. It's like nothing's happened. They have this vitality about them. They get up in the morning. I remember being a kid, get up in the morning, now 5 or 6 years of age, maybe the school holidays. It was like I was on my bike all day, and racing around, doing crazy things. We were Generation X. We got up to those things, but we were out all day. And we had that energy, and then the next morning you wake up and you do exactly the same again. You didn't wake up thinking, "Oh, my back hurts," or "I feel stiff." You had that vitality. So, and I think what happens over time, our vitality is like it just seems to can get less and less as we get dragged more into the world, and when we don't live in harmony to who we are. But I see the vital force as it's this intelligence. It's like a conductor of an orchestra. It's conducting the music. It's conducting all the instruments within our body, our physical body, but not just physically, mental, emotionally, as well as physically. And when it's in harmony, then everything is flowing. It's just when things get stuck for whatever reason. Again, it can be mental, emotional, physically. But it's our ability to be able to bounce back as well. I think, like if we get a cold or cough, our ability to bounce back from that. I don't know if that sort of makes sense.
Well, yes. And this is at the absolute heart of my work in health creation, because we're looking at this question of where we are losing and gaining our vitality in every single one of the 12 health creation principles, which is why I've come to call it life energy management. But in terms of how homeopathy works, this is another very big question, which is, how do homeopathic remedies work? How do they reactivate that?
Yeah, I'm going to use another analogy. I always like to, even though I'm not a car person whatsoever, or anyway mechanical, but I always use the car analogy. So to me, remedies are key to a lock. Okay, it's like you have these different remedies. They're like key to the lock. And when you put the key into the ignition of a car, well, I know a lot of cars are electric now, but when you put them into an ignition, you turn the key and the engine starts. So what the remedies, and this is the difference between homeopathy, I think, and allopathic medicine, is what the remedies do is stimulating the body to heal itself. It starts the engine. You don't need to keep taking the remedy. But otherwise, if you did that in the car, it would grind the ignition. The engine's already going. So the vital force, it knows what to do. It's intelligent, but sometimes it needs a little bit of a helping hand or a little bit of a push. And to me, the only time that you would repeat that was if the engine stalled again. Then you repeat the remedy again, and that can happen in acute situations as well as chronic situations. So to me, it's very much like the pill itself, the remedy itself, is not doing the work. It's the interaction with the body, with the vital force. Just like an acupuncturist needle, you go to see the acupuncturist and they put a needle in one of the, in the meridian to help the chi the chi that has got stagnated, just help the meridian, just help the flow of the chi. It's the same thing. You're just stimulating the body to heal itself. Whereas with allopathic medicine, and again, I'm not anti-medicine by any means. To me, it's like a scale. If I'm on a car accident, the first place I want to be is a hospital. I'll be taking arnica if I'm conscious, and that did happen to me. But if I've got a chronic disease, I'm going to look at other different ways to try to get my body to heal itself. So I think this is the difference. We're not trying to suppress symptoms. We're listening to the body in homeopathy, and we're matching what we feel is the right remedy for that person.
I mean, that is deeply fascinating, because I know there's this idea of constitutional remedies, which are to do with the characteristic of the person. And then there are some symptomatic remedies. You mentioned nux vomica for nausea. But let's come to Karen. I mean, you use homeopathy, don't you? What are the go-tos for you with homeopathy?
Well, first of all, I found it because I was at my wit's end. I mean, I tried everything else. I don't know whether that's usual, Marcus.
Very usual, yeah.
I was like, I'm really desperate. And my dear friend Liz said, have you heard of Wellida? I'm like, who? I mean, this is 20, how old's Jacob now? 27. So it's nearly 30 years ago. And she said, well, give it a go because you've got nothing to lose. And that's how I went to see a homeopath, Lorraine, who I still see today, actually, and I'm on a remedy at the moment. But I've had a constitutional remedy. Mine is Thuya. And when I took that remedy, I felt peace in my system. And I remember the moment I was out for an Indian takeaway with Michael, and he just looked at me and said, you look really happy. I just felt so peaceful. But the one for me, I mean, I've got so many stories and it's not my episode, but the one for me is, I've got scoliosis and my right lung is restricted because of the posture and I am prone to chest infections. And my homeopath said to me, yes, you can keep taking antibiotics and bring in that additional army to help you fight off this infection, or we can work on boosting your own army. And what I had to do was go to bed when I had a chest infection, not carry on working. With antibiotics, I'm popping the pills and going to work and trying to do everything. But I went to bed and I let my body do its work. And I kept thinking, I'm just adding to the army. I'm adding to the army. Well, it's over a long period of time. So I had to have patience. But I probably have one every 2 years now. And they were every 3 or 4 months. So it's been life-changing for me. Life-changing.
Can I just follow up on that? Sorry, can I just follow up on what you said about taking the remedies and because again, I feel when we use remedies, what it does, again, we're stimulating our vital force. So the more that we do that, it's like going to the gym. The more that you stimulate that vital force, the stronger it becomes. If you are taking things like antibiotics or drugs, they're doing the work for it. So the vital force sits back, but it can get weaker and weaker because it's not being used as much almost. So that sort of analogy of the more that we use it. I tell you the biggest thing I see with kids, I ran a mother and baby clinic for many, many years before I had my own kids. It was very useful actually then when I did have my own kids. But people used to come back all the time, and I saw this in my own children, was that after acutes, they would have acutes. And what do we mean by acutes? Like, the coughs, the colds, the childhood diseases, chicken pox or whatever. What you would see, or fever or whatever it was, acute, you'd see often in very young kids, they would make a developmental shift after those acutes. So they would start to talk, or they start to walk, but they always were connected to some kind of childhood acute that they would have. So again, these things are for a reason. It's working with the body, not just, I think there's so much fear now about symptoms. And to me, fear is just lack of knowledge. When we were a kid, I remember this with my grandmother. I saw her yesterday. She's 101. And she'd always have something. If you were sick, she'd give you out the garden or kitchen cupboard, even though I didn't see her that much, but she wouldn't be aware of it. And I've only, when I got into homeopathy, that I really engaged more with her around that, because I didn't really have any connection to it before that. And so I think for a lot of us or people listening, this knowledge was already there with our grandmothers, and it was normally because they'd seen it all before, and it was knowledge that was passed on from generation. And now I think we're quite cut off. We can be very cut off from that. Now there's too much information online, and people get confused. They don't know which way to turn. But I think it goes back to trusting your body and listening to your body. Because if you don't listen to it when it whispers, you're going to hear it when it screams.
That's a good one, Marcus. And, the other thing I wanted to ask you, I want to go deeper into what you're saying, but homeopathy has taken one hell of a bashing, hasn't it, over the past decade? When I qualified, I believe there were 4 homeopathic hospitals in the NHS. And I think there are now 0.
Well, no, there's still the London
okay,
Homeopathic
but it's
Hospital.
changed its name to the London Integrative Medicine Hospital. Hallelujah, that is still there. But how did that go for you? It must have been appalling.
It was. I'm a bit of a fighter, so I like a challenge anyway. But I've had my fair share of being the end of some of these campaigns. Well, we call them skeptic campaigns. It was interesting that whole skeptic movement started, and it was a very well orchestrated movement. Different organizations, Sense About Science, the Nightingale collaboration. It sort of started around 2007. And I remember that's when Mintel, which is a big market research company, brought out this report that said, I can't try to remember that, I think something like 49% of all women in this country and something like 20% of all men use some form of complementary medicine. And then they showed like sales for arnica was like, rescue remedy and all these things. And it sort of started around that time. And it went on probably, I'd say, to 2020, probably just before the pandemic. And there was attacks constantly. For me, because I've got so much clinical experience over the years, it's like when they say homeopathy doesn't work, it's like saying the sky is green or the grass is blue. It's like, it doesn't even make sense to me what they're even saying. So and if anybody was ever skeptical, always skeptical, but I don't really get this anymore. But people say, well, homeopathy, it's a load of rubbish, it doesn't work. And I'd say to them, oh, what's your experience of it? Well, I read that. Oh, you read something. Okay. Well, why don't you try it? Just try it. The proof's in the pudding. I've worked all over the world doing homeopathy under, we used to do a travel, and we still got a clinic there in Gambia. We do a mobile clinic. I take students and graduates, and we do a mobile clinic all around the different villages in Gambia where people have absolutely nothing. And to see the effects of homeopathy in these villages, I remember one village we'd been a few times, and you'd have people that walk 3 days to come because there's no healthcare system in Gambia, and we'd be under a tree with the remedies, with the books, with people, queues and queues and queues of people. People walk 3 days to get there. And at the end of the day, you pack up. And one day we went to pack up, and they said, the village elder said, no, we want to, the village want to sing you a song, all of us, the homeopaths, to show our appreciation of how much homeopathy has helped their village and restored health to the community. And they sang this song. I didn't know what they were singing, but it was so heartfelt. I didn't need to know the words. We were all in just floods of tears because it was so heartfelt. So when you have those sort of experiences, and I've done it all over the world, from skyscrapers in New York, practicing to, like I said, under a tree, or going and see it in India, doesn't even make sense to me. But, there is agendas, as we all know, against natural medicine. And as I always say, the pharmaceutical industry is not in the wellness business, it's in the sickness business. As long as you're very clear on that, then that's fine. But, I think the pandemic changed a lot. I think it's changed a lot of people's perspective around health and well-being and the importance of it, that we can't give our power away, that we have to take charge of our health and well-being and be knowledgeable about it. And so I think, in a way, I've seen a huge shift this past 5 or 6 years, huge shift with people. Not everybody, but a lot of people. And I'd say to anybody listening, you have got to take charge of our health and well-being. It's an absolute must for yourself and your family.
That's the one, Marcus, isn't it? Because I think I think that if people who are seriously affected by COVID or by cancer for that matter, when you reach the limits of what the medical model can do, and there's that massive wake-up call, that we have to move from passive to proactive and get involved, but as we're on the subject of COVID, obviously I had a lot of people coming to me for looking for different ways to be with it. I was very interested in the theory of Dr. Tina Pierce that the people most at risk with COVID are those with pre-existing MCAS, where they have this underlying mast cell activation syndrome, making them hypersensitive. And, that they were the ones who will have this big old release of cytokines and all the different inflammatory substances. How did you use homeopathy in that sort of context?
Yeah, well, for us, remember, we don't treat diseases, or we treat people. So in homeopathy, just for people listening, homeopathy is very individual. So five people could have a cough, 5 people could have COVID, 5 people could have a headache. But according to your characteristic symptoms, you may get a different remedy. So again, this is like the opposite to the allopathic model, one size fits all. So in homeopathy, it's very individual. It doesn't matter what you have, we are looking to match that remedy. So maybe I'll just give a little explanation what is homeopathy for people that don't know. Very, very simple. So homeopathy it works on the principle of law of similars. So or like cures like. So a good example, you chop an onion up, your eyes water, your nose runs. Well, we use onion in a very diluted form, a homeopathic form, for people with hay fever or colds where their eyes are streaming and the nose is running. Another good analogy is coffee. You drink a lot of coffee, you get very wound up, your nervous system gets wound up, your brain's going 1,000 miles an hour, you're rushing around, you can't sleep. Well, we use coffee or kefir as a homeopathic remedy for people that have those symptoms who haven't drank coffee. Then this may be very stressed at work, they can't sleep, full of ideas, rushing around. So whatever can cause something in a large amount, in a small amount, it can cure it. So all we're ever doing in homeopathy is matching a remedy state to that person, but it's very, very individual. So homeopathy was was used extensively, and I used it, but also for post-COVID as well. Long COVID, which is really for us post-viral fatigue. Which again, remedies like gelsemium we mentioned before, and arsenicum, these different remedies are very effective. But homeopathy's got a huge history of epidemics and clinical data around epidemics. I mean, in the cholera epidemic of the 1850s. And this was spoken about in the House of Commons at the time. It's there recorded that the mortality rate in the allopathic hospitals from cholera, the cholera epidemic, was 52%. In the homeopathic hospital in London, it was 16%. That is there. Anybody can research that and get it. There's so much around epidemics, and I won't go into all that. So back to my point. So it's about individual, but also it's about susceptibility. So it's like our levels of susceptibility. And in other words, again, another analogy is, mosquitoes were attracted to dirty water, but they didn't make the water dirty. It's a bit like bacteria and viruses, like flies to a dustbin. So, it's always, to me, it's about us and our health and well-being. Some people get sick, some people don't. Why? It's about our susceptibility.
You mentioned to me that you, during that sort of time, you created your home prescribers course and book. And I believe you're offering that as a complimentary course.
Yes,
so
today.
Please tell us about that.
Yes. Well, how that came about, we already had this home prescriber course recorded by one of my lecturers, great lecturer and teacher and homeopath, Hilary Dorian, but we used to sell it. And it was about £195. It's a 5-hour video course. But then during the pandemic, I was seeing how disempowered people were, around the health and the family. And so I said to our team, let's just give it away for free, because I want people to know they've got another choice around their healthcare. And it went viral. I mean, we must have nearly 50,000 people now around the world that have done that course. It's still free to this day because, again, as I said to you, I was going to make sure the whole world knows about this. That was my thought. And it's still today, my North Star is to enhance the health and well-being of humankind through the education and application of homeopathy. And that's part of that. So yes, you can go to our website and put it in the show notes, cchihomeopathy.com. You get access to it. I'd say to anybody to do it. It's free, but please watch it because there's so much information in there. And then Walid asked me during COVID to write, this my first book, The Home Prescriber, written like an exercise book, really just around, some of the top remedies for different conditions.
What a beautiful thing to do, Marcus. Thank you on behalf of everybody who's benefited from that. And just to say that URL again, I think it was CHE Homeopathy
.com.
So people can go there, they can get that course for free. And the other thing you told me about was an AI clone of Marcus. Tell us about that.
Yes.
One isn't enough.
Well, yeah. So basically, I love technology anyway, and again, I'm always thinking how we can enhance. I mean, that's my North Star: how we can enhance humankind through homeopathy. And so I've been quite deep into AI. I think it can enhance what we do. I go through different things with AI. I either love it, and then I get fearful of it because nobody knows where it's going to go. But it's when I wrote my second book, on the back of the Home Prescriber, I wrote my second book, Homeopathy at Home, which was published by Hay House. Hay House approached me about would I do a book with them. And I realized that because it was it's going to go internationally, that you get people contacting all the time about acute prescribing because it's all based around things that, coughs, colds, A to Z of ailments. So I worked with this company it was 2 years ago, on an AI clone. So basically what it is, it's called Ask Marcus, and it's got all my books in there. It's got all my videos, it's got all my lectures over the years into this AI clone. But it's not me, by the way, it is a clone. But you can WhatsApp me, you can phone me. I speak in any language. And I've got over 1,000 people using it around the world at the moment, like a beta test. But the beta test has gone on for 2 years. But people are finding it so useful. I get messages saying, "Oh, little Johnny had a fever at 2:00 in the morning last night and this morning, and I talked to you for 10 minutes about what remedy to give. And I gave it, and he's great, and he fell asleep, and he's fine this morning." So what it means is we can enhance what we do. I can't be available 24/7 for people around the world, but with my clone, I can do. And the clone, just to be very clear, it only deals with acute things. Anything chronic or anything that needs more qualified, it's got guardrails that says you need to get advice. And also, it just sticks to that knowledge base. It's like a small language model. So they can scan that. If they buy the book, it's in the back of the book, and they can scan a QR code and they get free access to it.
Amazing. And you also run a low-cost clinic.
We do. So CHE, I'm the founder and principal of CHE, the Center for Homeopathic Education. This is where we train homeopaths. So everything from beginner's course all the way to practitioner training and postgraduate. And these are proper professional courses for practitioners. And part of their training is clinical training. And so for the past 28 years, we've offered low-cost homeopathy clinics. Now they're all online, so people can access them from around the world. And we run 8 low-cost clinics a month where people can come for £25 and get homeopathic consultation, which is fully supervised by qualified professionals, clinicians. But it gives the final year students their training experience. So and again, you can find that on the CHE Homeopathy website.
Wonderful. Karen, what are you thinking?
I'm just thinking about the homeopaths and the consultation, because that is part of the remedy for me. I've known my homeopath for 30 years and I know many others and I love them all, but it's part of the remedy. I go in to the consultation. First of all, I've got time and space to be able to talk about what's wrong with me, because sometimes when I go to a GP, in those 5 minutes, or up in Scotland, actually get 15 minutes, but even in 15 minutes, if I am struggling with something, I'm not always clear on what is going on. So it takes time. And my homeopath has always held that space for me and created this calm container and just listened and witnessed without judgment. I mean, that is like a magic pill, I think, in anybody that's struggling with an illness or something that's challenging them. And what they've never said to me is, "I'm sorry, there's nothing we can do for you." You'll just have to live with it, which I was told again yesterday in an NHS appointment. And do you know, even with my experience, it still took me to a very dark place when I heard that. My vital force yesterday was on the floor. I had to message Rosie to say, can I have an appointment on Thursday? just to be able to pick myself up. But I've never heard that, Marcus, from a homeopath.
Well, I think it's interesting. I mean, there's a remedy for that. We had you just saying that, and I've seen this a lot with people, especially when they get a diagnosis, and it's called ailments from bad news. And it's shock. You know, there's different remedies that we have for that.
Yeah.
And sometimes, you know, the power of the spoken word is extremely powerful. I had a good friend who was a cardiothoracic surgeon, and he was a lovely guy, lovely guy. And he used to really trouble him about when he was talking to patients, and Rosie, you probably know this as well, talking to patients, and you know, he gave me different examples where he's trying to tell people the diagnosis, but actually all they hear is the diagnosis. They don't hear, but actually with something we can do about it, right? It just stops at that especially the C word, you know, but often, so I've seen that with clients, that often you're dealing with that first. You've got to deal with that shock first of a diagnosis before you even get down into treating the person, because people are in a state. But I agree. I think the therapeutic space is so crucial. And I think because there's very few things in life where we are truly listened to. And I always say, you can't think and listen at the same time. To be truly present, you have to deeply listen.
Yeah. And isn't that so beautiful? You know, in the therapeutic relationship, I know Dr. Michael Dixon has written a book called The Human Effect, and I sort of, when I teach about it, draw a triangle between, you know, me, the client, and the third presence, which is that sort of, whether you call it the connection to source, to spirit, to the collective consciousness, you know, the place where all knowledge, all love, all inspiration dwells. Because I think if we open our hearts in that deeply loving way, then we become, all that information becomes accessible. But I think from having had homeopathic consultations myself, that exquisite detail of, you know, what you like to eat, what weather you like, you know, how you sleep in the bed, whatever, all these details, we all love it when people are so interested in us, and the fact that that's defining our constitutional remedy. But can we just dive a little deeper into some of the background, Marcus, as we've got you here? Because back when I first started studying integrative medicine, there was the amazing Luc Montagnier.
Luc Montagnier,
and Peter Chappell and Jacques Benaviste doing work on the memory of water. And you've mentioned to me Gerald Pollack on the four phases of water. So this was research that was going on where people were getting very, very close to understanding how a remedy can be succussed or, you know, shaken into water, and how on earth that water can be holding a memory, you know, because that's one of the reasons the skeptics go bonkers, because they're saying at the dilutions in a homeopathic remedy, there cannot be anything left. So tell me your thoughts about that.
Yeah, well, I think, where do we start? Because it's a big subject, but I think the thing around the remedy, I think what's important to realize is not just about it being diluted. So it's diluted and it's succussed. And what succussion is, for people who don't know, it's basically it's the banging of the container which has the remedy, and then it's diluted again, one drop. So basically how a homeopathic remedy is made, you have the homeopathic tincture, say it's in a test tube, you take one drop of that tincture and you put it into 99 parts of alcohol, and then it's succussed, which means it's banged. Now a machine can do that, you can do it by hand, and then you take one drop of that into another 99 parts of alcohol and you succuss it again. So it's not just about dilution, and this is what the skeptics always go on about, oh, it's just so diluted. But actually on dilution, I mean, look at things like sharks, for example. You can put one drop of a drop of blood in the ocean, and the shark can spot it a mile away. But anyway, let's not get into sharks. But it's not just about dilution; it's about the succussion. And they said that in the succussion, it's releasing something of that substance. But yes, you're right. I went to a conference in 2018 at the Royal Society of Medicine here in London on water and the evidence for homeopathy, where it was a different scientist, 2 Nobel Prize winners. You mentioned one already, Luc Montagnier, also Brian Josephson as well from Oxford, who'd won 2 Nobel Prizes, but also other scientists. Gerald Pollack was one of them. And through their sort of studies of water, really felt that they'd found independently the mechanism behind homeopathy. For me, it's like we're looking at homeopathy. To me, it's on the quantum world, quantum mechanics, quantum physics, whatever you want to call it. And often with science, to me, it should always be pushing the boundaries. I mean, many times in science and in medicine, you say, we used to know this, but now we know this. Just because it can't be detected doesn't necessarily mean it doesn't exist. It just means that we don't understand it yet. Now, we may not understand it yet, the full mechanism of it, but we know how to apply it. And to me, that's the most important thing. We know how to apply it and how to help people. That's my only thing, drive, back to my story, back to what I was saying, is to help people, let them know, let them experience it for themselves. You know, we can get so lost in the and there's so much going on at the moment, like with agro-homeopathy and agriculture, where they're using they're using homeopathic remedies on crops. You know, they're talking about 500 acres of cotton and one particular parasite, whatever it is, increasing the crop yield after using homeopathy, spraying on the crops, by 30-odd%. It's using animals, it's using farm animals, it's using, cattle, as well as dogs and cats. There's vets that practice homeopathy. Because people always say, well, it's just placebo. There's placebo in every therapeutic relationship up to a point. But then we start talking about cattle and you start talking about crops, I think it starts to stretch that it's just placebo.
Well, for sure. And I'm absolutely with you. And I do find this, this unseen quantum level. And we see so many different ways in which this works, the power of prayer, the research done by Larry Dossey and colleagues on non-local mind and how we can influence people that are miles away. So it's absolutely real to me. And you mentioned that if anybody wants to go and look, the conference is New Horizons, Water Science, the Evidence for Homeopathy, which was way back, wasn't it?
Yeah, 2018. It's on YouTube. All the videos. I say to everybody, go and watch it. I mean, there's some heavy science in there as well, but it's really it's very interesting. It was a fantastic conference.
But, when we've been talking about in the Wellida Remedies, Anthroposophy, the Steiner and Dr. Wegman's sense of the signature of the plant or the yes. essence of the plant. And it's so beautiful. It's so sensitive. So, Karen, closing thoughts, my dear.
Well, it seems like all of us are on this very determined journey to raise awareness about what is out there for people to use. And I call it an informed choice, because also if we are encouraging people to take responsibility for their own health and they're a unique human being, then it's all at the moment. There's a shift to knowing yourself. You know yourself more than anybody else. That's in the health creation teachings. It's the same in homeopathy. So what I think we're all doing is raising the awareness, and Marcus, you use this word elevating the awareness, the knowledge, the information for people to be able to make an informed choice. And to do that, you need to go inwards and you need to start listening to your body. And you said it, Marcus, when it whispers, listen to it, because it will scream at you if you don't change the behavior that is bringing about the dis-ease.
Absolutely.
Change it to bring about balance. And, I'm right back at the advisor conference, whenever it was, 2000 and something, where you all stood on the stage. Rosie was there, Marcus was there, Joey Walters was there as well. And I knew in that moment there was something special for me on my path So to have you back here on the podcast, Marcus, is just
Thank you.
seriously a dream. And look how far we've all come, we're not giving up. And to me, just one final point, to me, the people who are the haters, the people that sort of question it, they're a bit like a remedy to me, because they push our vital force. And our vital force in response goes, come on then.
Absolutely. Yeah, no, it absolutely does. And look, I always think, why can't we just be a little bit more kind to each other? Just need a little bit more kindness. And I think, especially in a world of such polarity going on at the moment of people's opinions and I don't know, it's just very polarized, isn't it?
And particularly at a time when the medical model is falling apart, because we cannot all go on getting iller and iller and iller and iller and expect the medical profession to be able to rescue us.
Exactly.
So, relatively speaking, homeopathy is very inexpensive. So I would urge everybody listening today just to get yourself to a homeopath, go onto Marcus's site, find a homeopath and get involved, because it's going to open a treasure trove.
Absolutely. Thank you. And can I just say something just for people listening? And because a lot of people, I think they can beat themselves up about their health and well-being. And actually, we can start now. Every day you can draw a line in the sand and go, right, this far, but no further. We can do something now. Nothing's too late. And just to sort of, for me, just to finish with a quote, which I love, and it's like what we talked about, the therapeutic relationship, and that actually, I know for my clients and patients, it's not having judgment. When people come, it's being free of judgment. That's one of the pillars of homeopathy, which Hahnemann says, be free of judgment. It's called the unprejudiced observer. And that's what we do in homeopathy. We're listening and we're observing. But I just want to finish with one of my favorite quotes by Rumi, which really sums up for me that therapeutic relationship is, beyond right doing or wrongdoing, there is a field, I'll meet you there. And I feel that's what we do with our clients. We'll meet in the field of no judgment and just really love, love for our fellow human and humankind, really.
Just wonderful. Bless your beautiful heart, Marcus.
Thank you
so much.
Yours, get me in my heart, love. A little tear, there it is.
There you go.
Finished now.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thanks a lot.
Thank you so much for joining us on this episode of Alive and Loving It. We really hope that today's conversation has sparked your passion and showed you ways to open up into the vibrant life that's possible for you.
Absolutely, Rosie. I mean, we do have to remember that transformation begins with love, and that is self-love, love for others, and love for our beautiful planet. When you embrace love and you just allow yourself to receive as much as you give, you unlock the fullest potential of your life.
That is the truth, Karen. And we're here to support you every step of the way on your journey. So if you enjoyed what you heard today, please join our community and check out our trainings and our services, such as my Dr. Rosie Daniel Clinic and Karen's beautiful women's circles and retreats, and the events where we can all go deeper together. And do please send us your feedback. We want to hear your ideas for the podcast, who you'd like us to interview, and the questions you want us to ask and get answered. Through the contact page on our website, just go to aliveandlovingit.org.
I've really enjoyed reading them. But when you're there, be sure to sign up for our newsletter and updates. And what about following us on Instagram as well? We are at Alive and Loving It Community. Once you've signed up to the newsletter, you'll receive extra notes from today's show and more inspiration to help you live your most vibrant life.
Thank you for being with us. Keep shining, stay true to yourself, and remember, this is your time to live your fullest, healthiest life.
So until next time, keep doing what you love most in life. I know Rosie and I will be. We're so excited to connect with you on the next episode of Alive and Loving It. And we welcome you with open hearts to our Alive and Loving It community.